Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course stream for fun. Today we're doing a state of gaming where we're taking a look at a $700 question between two types of upscaling, FSR 3 versus PSSR, which is of course on the PlayStation Pro. And I do states of gaming every so often, and again, it's not like on a regular basis that I actually put these out because these are kind of deeper dives into something in the gaming industry, and I'm not necessarily going to waste your time with something that's not really thought provoking or interesting to talk about. So, otherwise, I have gaming news consolidated once a week. Those are can be anywhere from 30 minutes to a couple of hours, depending on what's happening during the week. Um, and yeah, that's just a broad overview of what's going on. But yeah, these states of gaming, I think they're important too because they're looking into kind of some possibilities, some questions, some deeper dive stuff, maybe some also very controversial things, maybe even like this today. So we'll see. So what you're seeing on the screen is Star Trucker. Honestly, it's been a pretty fun, kind of chill game that still has its own set of challenges. Um, and it's pretty cheap, actually. It's honestly not too much money compared to a $70 price tag for some games today. Hopefully, you guys are doing well, but hey, let's go ahead and get into this. So, we know with the PlayStation 5 Pro that there's a couple gigs of extra RAM, which is a little bit more dedication to certain things so that the whole console runs a little bit more efficiently. We also get 2 terabytes of storage and something called PSSR, or also known as PISR. And I can't help it but laugh with that one because of course they knew that was coming. But this is honestly a resolution enhancer. So the idea with upscalers is that natively your console will run what's designed for the resolution, the frame rate, other graphical settings like ray tracing and shadows and things like that, or even like different types of textures or anti-aliasing features. And it's interesting because the upscalers themselves, they work on dumbing down the resolution, and then they use a software to actually increase the resolution again, but it's not necessarily on the native side. And this frees up the native hardware, your RAM, CPU, GPU, to then work on increasing frame rate or do more with the ray tracing and all of that other kind of stuff. And so it helps, but it's not like all natively done through the hardware itself. It's a dumbing down and then upscaled through software. And yeah, this ends up giving us better performance. We still get pretty good resolution, though most games still don't run at for actual true 4K. They run at 1440p, sometimes a little higher, a lot of times lower, even like some other ones, like Spider-Man. I still in Alan Wake 2. I think they still actually run below 1080p. I think they run actually below that still on the PlayStation 5 Pro, which is surprising because you'd think it'd honestly be better than that. But we do see a difference, of course, with the right TVs. We see this upscaling resolution providing more for us on some games, definitely more than others, as the PSSR is a patch done by each individual company. And how it's done and how it's implemented can really change the effects for better or for worse to actually see if the game's better. But all of this ultimately costs $700, which is quite a bit of money. Of course, people really didn't like the $700 price tag. People, too, just like myself, are worried about what the next gen consoles are actually going to cost. And if they're pushing this hard to provide CPU and GPU from roughly still 4 or 5 years ago, and it's costing us $700 today, man, what is the next thing going to be? And so this opens up some questions we're also going to explore later about the future of consoles. But there also has been an upscalers, or there have been upscalers before for PC, and we've had them for quite some time. We have had FSR by AMD, and we've also had NVIDIA's DLSS, and these have worked pretty well. They've done a good job, but now we actually have AMD's FSR on Xbox Series X and S, and also PS5. These are actually available, and they're compatible. And PlayStation 5 has version 3.1, which is fairly good. It's not great, but it does help give you some of those frames back, anywhere from 5 to 15 frames, depending on what's going on and what game you're playing. Xbox has version 3.2 right now. You can actually see all of this on AMD's website. And like PSSR, games have to be patched with FSR to be able to work with the upscaler. And right now, the list is really, really small. So PSSR currently has about 60 titles, and they will continue to grow this. I'm sure, too, with their first party and also their third party. They're wanting anyone that can to provide patches to try to push and make the list grow bigger to make it easier to spend that $700 price tag. Also, too, you don't have to pay scalpers, folks. You can still go on PlayStation's website and order or buy a PlayStation 5 Pro if you want one just for $700. So, trying to save you some money right there. FSR currently against PSSR's 60 titles, FSR only has 3 to 5 so far. So, it's honestly not very many. We know that FSR 4 is coming, which is actually going to be a pretty big boost in frame rate. The kind of test runs that we've seen um, push the capability of adding like an extra 20 to 30 frames, which is huge. Sometimes even more than that. One game I saw that was play tested was an additional 40 frames. I wish I could remember which one it was, but it was really impressive. And still, FSR 4 is a while out. Okay, we're probably not even going to see it next year. This will be more like 26 or maybe even next gen type of console stuff. But we do know that PlayStation and both Xbox with their next gen consoles are going to be using AMD hardware, and so they're going to have access to this FSR. And yeah, FSR 4 will be pretty good. Again, games will have to be patched for this, but yeah, it'll likely be for both consoles. But this does raise a really good question. Which is actually better? Is it PSSR or FSR? Most interesting is the question that is $700 because FSR is actually free. FSR, both Sony and Microsoft pay to work with AMD and make deals, and AMD just provides that for free, at least to us, the consumers. The console makers, they actually pay for that type of technology, and if we have access to it, even PlayStation, why are some people spending $700 for an upscaler? If you can afford it, hey, that's great, but for a lot of us, that's not really affordable, and it's challenging. But if we can wait for an upscaler that's going to be free, that's maybe going to be roughly as good as what PSSR is, then why not just wait for the better version? Again, there's a very small amount of titles right now, but this catalog of titles will continue to grow over time as adding console support is kind of a new thing for AMD, but it is something that we do currently have. And if we already have version 3.1 for PlayStation 5 and 3.2 for Series X and S, then yeah, we're already going to be likely getting FSR 4 when it comes out on PC, and then there'll be probably a little bit of lag time for it to actually get onto console. But yeah, free doesn't also necessarily have to be better. It's just simply the price point. It's like maybe you're getting close, and FSR 3 is probably fairly close to what PSSR is on most games. But free doesn't necessarily have to be better, it just needs to be good enough. And so against the Pro, you could upgrade your own storage. You wouldn't be able to upgrade your own RAM and your GPU, but with FSR 4, this is drastically going to make a difference for like the PlayStation 5 base, the Slim, or even the PS6. Because, yeah, if you don't have to pay for the upscaler, you can just get it for free. Why wouldn't you? I'd certainly be excited about that. I actually honestly want to try this myself, but I'm waiting for a game that I own to actually go on the PSR 3 list to see if I can really get a boost or not. But yeah, preliminary testing shows that PSR 4 is in some cases 75 to 100% frame rate increase, which is crazy. Again, maybe you're hitting kind of 40 frames. Well, now you can hit 80. Or maybe you're getting an additional 20 to 30 or 40 or even 50 frames on some games because the upscaler actually works so good and it does a better job of not ghosting, not leaving weird artifacts all over the screen. It actually renders it incredibly well. And for a free piece of software, that's great. That's great. And so, yeah, the $700 question, it's like, well, Do you have to have it now or can you wait? And I think for a lot of us with the price tag, honestly, we can wait. And two, life is just really more expensive. I don't know about you guys, but we've changed our lifestyles a little bit over the last 3 years because, yeah, everything costs more. And I still, of course, want to do my hobbies. So does my wife, and we still also want to provide things for our children. But yeah, some months are pretty tough. Some months are pretty tough to be able to do all of those. But this does also bring me to my next point, not just with the cost, but if FSR is actually free, especially with FSR 4, are we going to be seeing, of course, a bigger push with AI software and services side other than the hardware side for the next gen consoles? I'd say probably. We probably are going to see that. I think we'll see less local hardware and we'll see more remote work done for the games that we're playing. I think what ultimately the future is, maybe in a few more generations, is that you have something that operates that gives you access to your console maker's mainframe and allows you access to your library of games, allows you to run the higher frame rates, the 4K resolutions, the ray tracing. Everything is becoming more and more digital and less localized on hardware. And I think FSR and PSSR is, and ultimately maybe even NVIDIA will get in this race too with DLSS, is that it's going to continue to push that narrative of making things more digital and more remote. Because honestly, the physical side is more expensive. It always is, it always will be. Simulating through digitization is always a lot more cheaper, once you can get all the bugs worked out. And it's, of course, not always the best option, but I do think companies are, of course, trying it that way. And Xbox is leading the way on this. They're allowing us with the ultimate goal is to stream every single Xbox game that you own through the store, not just through Game Pass or some other service, um, but ultimately through games that you own. Just being able to stream them on whatever device you want, as long as you have the Xbox app, which I think is pretty awesome, at least for right now. Because when they start to actually have you charge for that type of convenience, that's where it's going to change and that's where it's going to suck. And I do think we'll honestly get another subscription service. I think Sarah Bond will come out sometime in the future and let us know that there's a streaming subscription or a cloud subscription where it's not really going to be bundled with anything else. It's just being able to play our digital library locally, which would be cool. This also means that we also might have the ability to have physical discs or physical copies. And once all of the files are actually downloaded to our Xbox or registered to the cloud that we actually own this game, then maybe hopefully we can stream it anyway without actually needing the disc or even needing to be near our console, which would be great. This also pushes it too that we don't even need a console really anymore if it's honestly too expensive, and therefore the console becomes a premium product, like with what we're seeing not just with the refresh, but specifically with the PlayStation 5 Pro. It doesn't necessarily provide that much bigger of a boost, and in some cases is implemented worse with PSSR for a $700 price tag. And that's tough. And I'm really glad that Xbox didn't really do a refresh because I think it would have been handled just as well. And I think they honestly saved themselves some heartache on that. But still, it is an interesting question because the future of gaming, while probably still a while off, maybe in the 2030s, it does look pretty different than what we have today. And we've already been seeing a lot of differences and a lot of changes that have been frustrating. And ultimately, it's kind of scary for actual ownership. And I've had some people, remind me, it's like, yeah, with Game Pass, you don't actually own your games, it's just access. And it's like, yes, I know that. Um, and I'm okay with that because I don't need to own every game that I play. The games that I want to play again, or the games that I ultimately want to preserve, I'll buy physical copies of if they're available. Otherwise, Game Pass is great for what I need. I'm basically getting a AA or AAA game every month for the foreseeable future, whether it's first party or third party, of a game that I would want to play anyway. And this way, I don't have to pay for a $70 price tag every month or $60 in the case with like Stalker 2. I just have to have the service. And if I'm already going to have multiplayer so I can play with my buddies, $240 minus $75, well, that leaves me with $165 for the year for Game Pass Ultimate. And that's honestly a pretty good deal because that's basically two double or triple A games plus an indie game. And so it is saving me a lot of money and giving me a lot more access. There's also a massive amount of games right now in the library of over 500 games. That's pretty insane. And Xbox must be doing something right because PlayStation is working on following suit since 2022, beginning of 2023, providing more games, releasing more at day one access. Though they can't do this for everything, they are doing it with some of their kind of smaller titles or even third party titles under their PlayStation Plus premium service. And so, yeah. And then, too, there's the thing of handhelds. If we can have the upscalers, if we can have the remote hardware and all of that stuff, well, then we don't even really need our handhelds to be a big deal or to run things locally or even save our files, which I would prefer that, of course. But it doesn't necessarily have to happen that way. And we did get confirmation from Phil Spencer that they are working on prototypes, in quote, of a handheld. Their expectation is to actually release a handheld at some point, but we're years off, at least from now. But I do think that is interesting. I think people are more interested in actually what the competition will be from Microsoft compared to the others that are already out there, rather than actually wanting and held to take with wherever they're going. I mean, could you imagine going grocery shopping or sitting in the DMV or waiting for your dentist appointment or something with this big, massive thing? I mean, you could, I guess, but it's not necessarily always convenient. For long trips or vacations, yeah, sure, absolutely. I would let my wife drive, and yeah, I would be playing Jedi Survivor, uh, streaming it, or Elden Ring, streaming it right to my device so that I could play. But yeah, it does lead to some interesting questions with the changes of technology. And things are moving very, very fast. And I do understand that people really, too, at the end of the day, we just want games that leave an impression. We want them to be emotionally engaging, to tell a good story. And, well, upscalers aren't going to fix that. It's going to be the studios that are going to fix that. And that's why today, on a side note, I'm more excited about double A's like Elden Ring or Stalker 2 or Baldur's Gate 3 than I am for a lot of AAA games. Even though Grand Theft Auto 6 is supposed to be a really, really big game, I still don't think I'm going to have as much fun with it when I play it actually compared to some of the other AA space games that I have access to, or even some of the indie games. But ultimately, wherever my friends are, whatever they're playing, that's what I'm going to be playing. And also for you guys, too. I honestly do some playthroughs. I'm going through Tomb Raider Remaster 1, 2, and 3 right now. We're trying to, I'm roughly about halfway through Tomb Raider 3. And for those of you that are enjoying it, hey, it's awesome to read your comments, engage with you guys in the chat. It's a blast. And we have Tomb Raider 4, 5, and 6 coming in February of next year, and I'll probably just continue on with that. But ultimately, too, you guys will vote on the next series of single player that I play, and I'm excited to see what you guys pick when that time comes. Also, Lion and I have finished Shadow of the Erd Tree. We're also playing through the Quarry right now, just for something kind of more lighthearted and fun and less challenging. But you guys ultimately voted for the next thing that we're going to play, and that's going to be Halo. And so that will be coming next year. And that's going to be, or maybe even toward the end of December. But I do have a lot of overtime, so it is going to be busy. But hey, for those of you that also have full-time jobs and or families, you know how that goes. But ultimately, it's fun to actually have the channel and to engage with folks. So thanks for tuning in. You can always follow me over at Gaming Garbage 22 over at YouTube. Everything is there. Just look for the playlist. That'll help you get around and get to different stuff, including more states of gaming if you're interested in those. And then we also have Discord, Twitter X, and also Twitch. And follow on Twitch if basically you want to see everything there first. I do stagger my stuff on YouTube. YouTube sometimes is a little bit more refined, but ultimately it's the same content, and you can watch it on Twitch first if you choose. And yeah, if you enjoy the content, please do share it too. I think that really helps get the channel out there. And as always, enjoy gaming, and I'll see you guys on the next one.